All right, guys, welcome back. This is going to be another mental workshop where I invite you guys to just come think with me for a while. We're either going to end up exploring and following threads and asking a lot of questions, especially if it's a question that I've never thought about from a certain way. Otherwise, I'm going to give you guys a lens and allow you guys to follow some threads and see some things for yourself from a different perspective, okay? So it's going to be one or the other. That's what this thing's all about. Okay, let's get right on with it. Here's the question. When should you tell someone exactly what you think? The first thing I want to say about this, the first thing that comes to my mind is there ever a time where you shouldn't tell somebody exactly what you're thinking? I think that kind of starts pulling threads and almost answers it. If you can answer that one, I think that it's going to make the original question more obvious, maybe. So we've kind of changed a little bit of the question that we're asking here. So when is there a time that maybe you shouldn't be honest? I have thought about this one quite a bit. I would say to answer that question dead on would be when it's a white lie. When you're trying to do something good for somebody else, or you're trying to shield them from something. Now, that doesn't make it the truth. That doesn't make it honest necessarily. But I think that there's sometimes a good time to do that, to resist from saying full honesty. And I think even sometimes if you're in a mood too, if you're saying something from an emotional place where you're angry, your version of what honesty might look like at that point might be much more brutal than it otherwise would have been. So there's a couple different ways that you can think about this one, of times where I think you should resist that urge of saying exactly what you're thinking, okay? And being that open and honest. There's just different times where I think it just, it really doesn't make sense because you're just going to be maybe hurting another person. And sometimes I can give you a really good example of one that I think you'll see on the fluffier side of things to see this one. I'm thinking about when you want to surprise somebody, okay? And you have a gift or something like that. And another person catches you, knows that you have a gift, or is suspicious that you have a gift. And you lie, okay? You don't tell them exactly what it is, right? They start pushing you a little bit. They're like, hey, did you get me something? And you're like, no, I didn't. No, of course not. Well, you're lying. I mean, and on the inside that you're lying. You're being dishonest. But you know what I mean? That's a white lie. You're doing it because you want to keep that surprise. You want to excite somebody. And you'll lose that energy of excitement and all that kind of stuff if you spoil it and you say it ahead of time. That's the kind of stuff I'm kind of hinting at here, that there's definitely times where and you shouldn't say exactly what you're thinking, and maybe it's dishonest. And I also kind of gave you guys the emotional standpoint of that. But that was more specific to, I guess, the question that I brought up is when is there, I don't even remember what it was, but we answered it. I know that. I know we were circling around that. But what's the original question? So let's come back to it then. Let's do that. When should you tell someone exactly what you think? When should you tell someone exactly? Okay, so actually, I may have overlooked the real essence of this question. I may have thought I knew what it was asking without really. Now that I'm repeating it, I see this a little bit more clearly. When should you tell someone exactly what you think? I think I inadvertently circled this question in a lot of different ways, and I didn't really answer the when. When should you tell someone? Well, I think we kind of answered that by deliberating with the other stuff. When you should tell them is when you're grounded enough, when you're stable enough, when you're not overly emotional and it's not like a hurtful truth. But then again, there is a time where that's also necessary. I mean, think about criticism. I know a lot of people don't like criticism. I understand why too. That hurts. Feeling like you're flawed, other people even recognizing your flaws and then them putting them in front of your face. But that's sometimes a really genuinely good thing, constructive criticism, because it helps you see yourself more clearly. And that's really the point, so that you can decide whether or not you're okay with that, or whether or not you want to change, or whether or not that's a good thing or a bad thing, or whether or not, it's a behavior that's helping you or not helping you. Those are important, especially if you want to become the best version of yourself. How can you avoid some of those flaws? You can't, I don't think. Or if you could, you're not really doing a great job of becoming the best version of yourself. You're hiding from yourself, and you're hiding from the pain that comes with that. And I get that. Everybody does that. It's, who wants to confront suffering? Who wants to feel something that's heavy and sucks? Nobody does. You know what I mean? Nobody does. But that's kind of like the stuff that helps you grow. That's the stuff that helps you think differently. That's the stuff that changes your whole outlook on life and does that kind of stuff. So it's necessary. Okay, are we still answering this question? I'm not sure. I like to go off on threads and just explore. So, when should you tell somebody exactly what you think? I think we've hit this one from multiple angles. I am probably quite satisfied with it. Let me just think for a couple more seconds. Was there anything we missed? Can we bring anything together that makes this even more confident of an answer or of an explanation or of an exploration? When should you tell someone exactly what you think? Is there a specific time? There's a question. There's a question that comes out of this one. Is there a specific time for that? Is there a time where you don't want to? We explored that. Is there... I can only think of one other way to kind of say this, and I think it's its own piece that fits into the larger thing that we've already kind of uncovered or pieced together or mapped out. I think it's just another piece to that map. When you should do it is when you feel like it, when you're in the mood to say something. And I know that we said that from the more negative side, when you shouldn't. But when you should, I would say it's when you're thinking clearly. And I understand that that can be difficult too. How often are you thinking clearly? You almost got to hit a window, right? And then you need to be with that other person or even with yourself. If you wanted to say something to yourself, you want to do reflection, meditation, contemplation, learn from yourself, study some of your habits, study some of your behaviors, study a situation that you have that maybe you wish would have went better, or maybe a situation that went well and you want to kind of study it and say why did this go well? How can I keep repeating something like that? Do you know what I mean? It doesn't really matter how you apply kind of these things. I think that they all kind of come back around in full circle, that you have a lens to kind of use this on any situation. So yeah, when you want to tell somebody exactly what you think, I think it's best when you can kind of find a window for it and you're in a good state. But we're not always like that. We're human beings. We're all over the place. Our moods change, like the weather sometimes. So it can be very hard to do that or find the right opportunity to do that. So keep that in mind. I don't think that there's ever really a bad time. But I think if you're dealing with loved ones and stuff like that, I think there is definitely, you'll have more opportunities. And that comes down to a discernment thing. With a loved one, maybe you don't need to say it today and you could say it tomorrow. Maybe with a friend, you can push it off until you're feeling better or something like that. But if it comes to a stranger or you bump into somebody or an interview, you don't get those same opportunities. Those are one and done situations. So I think that was an excellent extra piece to add on to that map that we kind of were building there for this lens and how to kind of do it. Okay, guys, I think that that's it for this one. I think that gave us enough to kind of see it a little bit differently. You guys decide for yourself. All right, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks so much for being here. See you guys there.